Welcome back. We are hoping that in 75 seconds time the AP flag is going to drop and we will be into the 10-minute period before racing can commence. There are the spectators hoping as well that they'll see some action today.
1 minute for AP.
1 minute to AP, we've just here.
Okay, so that's the AP, the orange and white flag that we see flying on the committee boat that's going to drop, and that will mark 11 minutes to the go gun. We get 1 minute, and then we get the 10-minute attention, followed by the 6-minute warning, then the 5-minute preparatory, and then we'll be going. So there's the AP flag. You can see in that guy's hand there, they're on countdown on the committee boat to drop that, and then the guys all know that it is 11 minutes to the go.
10, 9, 8.
Oh, this is the countdown we've been waiting
6,
for.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, the AP flag is down. Everyone's off to their positions.
And BMW Oracle there were perfectly positioned as that AP flag came down on the committee boat. They were just coming up to the committee boat end of the start line with their bowman poised ready to give the position exactly to the navigator, so he'll have that in his machine. They know exactly where that start line is now. And he's precariously balanced out the front there just to make sure he can call them up or down should they come close to Alinghi, and keep them out of harm's way. Well, that's the plan anyway. So the countdown we're hearing now is to the 10-minute attention signal, and the teams are really getting sorted now, heads in the game, concentrate on what they decided.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
There is the attention flag. And, well, there are cheers in the media centre for the dropping of the AP flag and the raising of the attention flag.
Well, everyone's just getting their lines tidied. Anything that you're responsible for on the boat now, you're checking to make sure you've got it where you want it, so it's ready to hand, and you're ready for any manoeuvre that gets called from the back of the boat. The brains are in the back of the boat making the decisions. The grunts in the middle and the all-action heroes are up the front. That's pretty much a boat layout. And the idea is you get promoted towards the back of the boat as your experience increases. Not always the case.
So the poor bloke right at the very front. He's got a long way to go.
That's right, but he's probably still young enough and bounces well enough to recover from all the bashing and bruising at the pointy end of the action.
Begs the question, what age did James Spittle start at then if he's 31 and already at the back of the boat?
Well, there's obviously those that get promoted slightly quicker than others, and also it's the way you're inclined. Some people don't want to be the all-action hero. Precariously balanced out there on the pointy end of the boats, that's for sure. So it takes a certain type of person that's happy out there and feeling confident.
So,
you just see a sail coming down there on BMW Oracle. They're lowering it down from that 17-story high mast, zigzagging it, laying it out on the deck there like a snake, so it's free from any tangles should it have to go up in a hurry.
well, I guess with the amount of space that the guys have on this boat, that in the old boats when they had to go put the flag back into the bow and then hoist it up again.
That's right, we don't have sewer rats anymore. In the old days with the monohulls, they had a sewer rat who's he stayed below deck, and his job was to collect the sails as they were dropped, bag them up again so they were ready for the rehoist. And he never saw daylight throughout the whole of the race.
Lucky him.
Well, lucky for him that that position isn't there on this boat now. They're all out in the fresh air, in the cold, biting wind, and they're all responsible for making everything happen correctly. They're unfurling a different sail, so they've just got one head sail out the front there now. and that's been their decision now for this start sequence.
So we are 75 seconds away from the warning signal, when the attention flag.
So you just saw a jumper there from BMW Oracle. That case in the back, that's their communications equipment that's gone into a waterproof case. And the person responsible for that, they both jumped off the side because you're not allowed to have that communications equipment on while you're racing. And the chase boat there, getting ready to pick them up, just retrieving the case now.
I mean, the crew have 3 minutes in which to pack all that up and get it overboard.
That's right, they spend hours out here waiting for some action, and then actually once that first flag drops, these minutes tick by so quickly. I mean, we're coming up 30 seconds to that 6-minute warning signal, and then at 5 minutes they're all in, all actions, all guns blazing.
Well, we've been waiting now for an hour and a half. You haven't waited. It's been a patient wait. In fact, it's gone quite quickly, I have to say.
Time's flying for us. You can imagine what it's like for these guys on the boat there. Alinghi are now just lurking around the committee boat. They've got the starboard entry into the starting area, and that takes place at the 5-minute gun. So they're 1 minute.
There we go.
That's the class flag up there now.
That is the yes, the warning flag.
So at the 5-minute sound, you're going to see a sound and a flag change, and that's then when these boats go into the starting area. They go from the race side of the course across that start line into the pre-start line, which is angled at a 45-degree angle from the start line, which is trying to stop these guys getting into a tangle before they get the go. But it'll be interesting to see how aggressive each team is.
Well, I'm just sitting in the commentary box and I'm already slightly nervous, so I can't imagine how these guys are feeling. Here's the next count.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And there is, or there will be, you can't see it, but there is the change of flag. 5 minutes to remain. Look at that, what a sight. What a sight that is. Why hasn't he got his camera out?
He's got other things to concentrate on. He's got to make sure these boats have got now until the 3-minute time to get in that pre-start area, and the umpires will be there checking they're not infringing any penalties and incurring a protest.
Here they come.
See, they're lining up now. Alinghi on port. And you can see Alinghi there turning right in front of BMW Oracle. They're coming up to wind. BMW have furled their head sail. They're pushing hard. They're now manoeuvring. They're showing their dominance over Alinghi there. Alinghi were forced to tack, and BMW are now in the controlling seat. There's a protest flag flying on BMW Oracle because Alinghi turned in their water. It forced them to make a manoeuvre to avoid them. So the on-water umpires will be addressing that.
So the tactician, Joe Kostecki, takes the first mini plaudit. He's forced Alinghi into, well, a manoeuvre that really they didn't want to do. A mistake maybe, who knows?
Well,
they had no
nobody
choice.
expected anything to be quite so
And there is the blue flag.
aggressive. We kind of thought these boats would keep to themselves, but BMW were rumoured to be saying they wanted to be aggressive, they wanted to push. And the blue flag is flying from the on-the-water umpire. So that's a penalty against Alinghi. Alinghi have the blue flag and BMW Oracle have the yellow flag.
Well, not a great start for the defence of their title for Alinghi. And both boats, unlike we've seen in the past, just very quiet and waiting for the off. 2 minutes and 30 seconds till they go. BMW Oracle and Alinghi are in the start box for the first race of the 33rd edition of the America's Cup, and first blood has already gone to BMW Oracle Racing even before the start. Joe Kostecki, the tactician on the American boat, got their entry into the start box spot on, and Alinghi were forced to make a turn in BMW water, and the protest flag went out immediately, and the race committee agreed with them, and so Alinghi 5 has a penalty against it already.
Now that's a penalty turn, and you can imagine a 110-foot catamaran has to now turn round. That's going to cost them dearly, and they have to do that on the race course before the next mark.
So here we go then.
We're just looking at that graphic. That's the pre-start line that they're both behind, and there's 1 minute 19 to the start, and these boats are just can depower very easily, so they're just sat waiting, and head sails are out, and we'll start to see them accelerate. BMW Oracle were very aggressive coming into that start area, forced the issue, and unfortunately in that dial-up Alinghi did not succeed.
So 1 minute just under now till the off, and I have to ask you, would you prefer to do your penalty turn going upwind or downwind?
Well, they're in a really tricky situation now. They're the wrong side of the line, and there's only 2 knots on each boat. I think James Spittle will have pre-planned that manoeuvre. I think he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he went in and did the job. You can see these boats trying to manoeuvre, trying to get going in the light breeze.
Well, if Alinghi can get round quicker than Oracle and get a jump on them, then they'll buy some time for this penalty turn. It's already ramping up here in Valencia, as the 33rd edition of the America's Cup is just seconds away from starting. BMW Oracle is still the wrong side of the line.
They've got some big problems on their hands now.
Well, we're off. BMW Oracle are the wrong side of the line, and Alinghi need to do a penalty turn. We haven't even gone anywhere, and the excitement is already happening.
Okay, because they were the wrong side of the line, we've got a recall on that. Alinghi actually did very well to get back in time. They could have got their own back on BMW Oracle there. They're now sailing through the line as if they've just won gold, but unfortunately they had the penalty against them, and BMW was the wrong side of the line, couldn't get out of irons there. They were stuck, and that's going to have made Alinghi pretty happy. They were not able to manoeuvre. They were struggling to get the boat going and get back to where they wanted to go.
Well, that strikes me as being slightly unfair on Alinghi. They messed up going into the start box possibly, but certainly got their tactics spot on after that. And I mean, Oracle are turning quite easily now. Maybe, do you think they saw that they had been jumped and went for the no turn?
It looks interesting. I mean, I think that initial protest, I think maybe have been a distraction, and you don't expect these guys to have a distraction, but I think it surprised everybody so much. They got in a position where they couldn't get out of it. Now, the chase boats are frantically going after each of the boats, and the on-water umpires are trying to catch up with them, and they're trying to get everybody back together again.
Well,
but Alinghi must be happy. Although they lost out on that first dial-up, they must be happy seeing BMW get stuck like that. And
yeah, the manoeuvrability of their boat seems to be.
It was great, wasn't it? They were much better at getting sorted out and getting going. So
we have to rev up again, and now BMW are literally just going to sit there, aren't they? Sitting right on the line almost.
Well, they've just got to the right side of the line. It looks like they're going to get sailing now. We did hear from the committee boat general recall, but Alinghi have continued to sail. BMW have now dipped the line and have taken off again.
So has the recall actually happened? We don't know, because by the looks of things, BMW Oracle are sailing. Well, we're just trying to fathom it out.
Well, it'd be interesting, because if this carries on now, Alinghi have taken that advantage where they got across the line clearly, and they'll have time now to get their penalty turn in, maybe.
Wow. CGI just taking us through what happened. They've gone through the line, and then Alinghi, look at that, turns really quickly and does phenomenally well. And I have to say, I have a little bit of sympathy for them if they're recalled, because rules or no rules, that was wonderful sailing, and they're off. They're off and running, aren't they?
That was awesome. It was almost like they went via BMW Oracle just to rub it in, really. Of, look, we've cracked it, we've made the start, and we're off.
And so BMW Oracle then has to come back, and that little thing there is the protest flag. So,
yeah, so Alinghi still have to do a turn, and they've got over a 600-metre advantage now, as BMW have finally started. But they're both doing similar speeds, around 19 knots they're being recorded as doing, so phenomenal sailing.
So it looks like the general recall isn't going to happen, but so speeds vary massively.
Upwind, we're pretty close, but height-wise, I think BMW Oracle are rumoured to be able to sail a little bit higher, so we just need to have a look on the graphics to see if that's the case. But with their wing, they're able to sail a little bit higher.
Well, Swiss have found some air from somewhere, but that's been through that pocket, so we'll imagine the Americans' speed will rise shortly.
The data's coming back so fast, it is real-time updates all the time.
And Alinghi trying to get their turn in, are they?
Yeah, the gap between them is definitely getting smaller, so maybe they've just got lighter wind ahead. And you can see there in that graphic how much higher BMW Oracle are pointing compared to Alinghi there, so that gap will close. Both of them easily flying a hull. Not a lot of water touching the boats.
Magnificent sights as the speeds dip and rise. And well, we are expecting 2.5 hours, something like that, for the boats to complete this course. But
yeah,
we say that, but we're not really sure.
No, it'll be between 2 and 2.5 hours. We know it's a 20-mile windward leg and a 20-mile downwind leg, and we're averaging around 18, 19 knots. Each time the wind goes light and the boat speed drops, they're having to bear away a little bit to get the power on, and then they come up. BMW looking absolutely solid as a rock there, and the gap is still closing between the two boats. But we can't forget that Alinghi still need to do their penalty turn. That striped flag next to their name reminds us that they've got that penalty against them.
Well, they seem to both be following a similar course at the moment.
And we can see there at the very back of Alinghi, that'll probably be one of the strategists or tacticians just having a quick look off just to see what BMW Oracle's up to. And all the PDAs are out with all the graphics. We've got Ernesto Bertarelli and Loic Perron together, so they can take over from each other.
And one of the skids just back into the water for Alinghi.
Just every time it goes light, Alinghi goes flat, whereas BMW Oracle are seeming to keep their hull flying a lot easier. And the gap is definitely closing.
Well, that's...
We've got a sail going up on Alinghi there. We can just see it flapping as it's going up.
That's port skid now, clearly out the water.
So the Swiss working very hard to try and find power and speed where they can to try and keep America behind them. A little bit more consistent from BMW Oracle. They're able to sail just that little bit higher, but Alinghi there with an extra sail to try and allow them to point and keep the power on. You can see how flat Alinghi are looking there compared to BMW Oracle.
Well, the Swiss crew, or the Swiss boat should I say, got the jump on their rivals at the start, but that port skid just keeps coming back down in contact with the water. Everyone lying flat just to minimise.
Reduce windage, reduce drag, it's key. You spend a fortune on the boat and the technology. The last thing you want is a load of people stood up in the way, so they have to play their part as well. Stay low, stay out of the way. And you can see the areas where people are working, there's little wells for them to go in, so they don't stand up too much and they don't create the windage.
So Alinghi just trying to sort something out at the front, their advantage, about 370 metres or so.
But it's impressive they've kept their boat speed while they've changed head sails. That's a pretty impressive thing to do. Some slick teamwork there. That gap looks big to us on the screen, but I can assure you that just under 400 metres is nothing at the speed these boats are going at. And we have to remember Alinghi may be in front, but they still have to do a penalty turn.
That really could be the difference between the two. Well, Alinghi led by about 650 metres at one stage, and BMW Oracle have cut that back to around 370, so not quite half, but near enough. The dagger board up on that port side, and that obviously will be lowered just as soon as it needs to be, as that port skid becomes the contact with the water. And Alinghi just pushed it out again to 390, but Oracle, they're closing all the time.
Very consistent sailing, slightly higher from Oracle there as well, so making good progress to windward for them. And Alinghi are having to work very hard to keep this lead that they have, but it's just being eaten away by BMW Oracle. Nice consistent sailing, no up and down with the try, whereas the Cat, you can see that windward float going in and out of the water as the speeds change.
So BMW still holding above Alinghi's line, and they've got the edge on speed as well.
You got to smile at this. We're finally getting America's Cup history happening, because these boats are finally racing against each other. We've waited a week for this, 5 days. It's the third attempt at this first race, and it was a start that nobody could have predicted. A big surprise there, forcing a penalty. BMW Oracle being very aggressive, James Spittle being very confident and asserting dominance, but actually then got stuck the wrong side of the line and cost his team a little bit there, because they had to get going, get back behind the line. But they're closing this lead Alinghi have, and they're still safe in the knowledge that Alinghi still have to do their penalty turn.
Well, Alinghi took the last edition on a penalty turn, as we just have a look at how the penalty was incurred.
There's that protest moment there where Alinghi turned right in the track of BMW Oracle, forcing them to change course, and a loud call went out from the BMW Oracle boat with the protest flag flying. The on-the-water umpires were there. You can see that little rib there. They were there to see it happen, and awarded in agreement with BMW Oracle, and therefore Alinghi have to do their penalty turn.
Because the boat coming from starboard has right of way.
That's right, that toss of the coin gives BMW Oracle there the rights, and Alinghi turned in their path. So here we're seeing the boats out on the track, and Alinghi's lead is down to less than 250 metres. So BMW Oracle are applying the pressure, and Alinghi are beginning to sweat, I should imagine.
Just interestingly on that replay there, I mean, Alinghi had two choices. Obviously, they either cut across the line, but they could they not have gone around the back? Or I guess BMW Oracle could have just kept steering into their path until they had to turn in their water. So they were pretty stuffed either way.
Yeah, I mean, for Alinghi there, they chose to do that turn in Oracle's path, and they could have borne away and gone around the back of them, but that would have been giving into them straight away. And BMW Oracle there, James Spittle came in aggressive and he forced that penalty. He knew what was going to happen, and that's where his confidence and experience in match racing has really paid off. They probably will have planned their possibilities of what could play out in that start area, and he would have had a few scenarios and he would have gone for what he thought was right in these conditions.
But with such time still available, because there was still sort of 3 or 4 minutes, even if they'd borne away and gone round, they would have still been in position to, you know, start well enough, wouldn't they?
Definitely, it's one of those where these boats are coming together
face-saving manoeuvre.
Very fast, and it's split decisions, and they probably called to tack, but that manoeuvre actually takes a very long time in these boats, because as they go head to wind, they pretty much stop.
Yeah.
And when BMW Oracle are coming down at you at such a pace, they got it wrong.
Well, that gap now really closing, and when Oracle get up near enough alongside Alinghi, which I'm sure will happen, the Swiss boat will have dirty air. So,
well, the camera angle there's not really doing justice to the lead, but it's been eaten up every second we're on air here, just seeing that they just don't have the advantage, and the height difference is phenomenal. You know, with that wing, they really are able to sail so much higher than Alinghi with the more conventional soft sails. Now that wing, as we talked about on BMW Oracle, is 17 stories high, and it's made up of 2 parts, the leading part and then the second attachment, which has 9 controllable flaps. So we've got a wing sail trimmer and a wing sail caddy who's assisting the trimmer, I would imagine. But Dirk de Ridder from the Netherlands, he's got a big order that he's delivering on in all accounts. He's controlling the twist, the camber, and the rotation of that mainsail impressively. He's probably working the Traveller very hard because he's probably put all the presets in the camber of that sail already. So he's just sailing the boat as he knows best, which is clearly delivering.
well, the Alinghi boat has, as we've said, master 17 stories, but doesn't give us a real measurement, so I'm not quite sure what 17 stories relates to or equivalents to in height, but we do know that the BMW Oracle mast towers to 68 meters above the deck, so it's pretty phenomenal stuff. So there is the Windward Mark, quite a distance away now.
So Alinghi's advantage being eaten away, and we've got a bit of way to go to that Windward Mark. So I think we'll have a mark rounding where BMW Oracle could have won that advantage back and be ahead of Alinghi.
And then with the penalty turn to come, and now the American boat has the edge. And well, hasn't taken long for them to make up that deficit.
No, I mean, looking at these boats now, you can just clearly see the power that BMW Oracle has, almost in comparison to Alinghi, because they're sitting a lot flatter and look a lot less powered up than the BMW Oracle boat, who have permanently been at a consistent angle with their hull flying nicely, whereas Alinghi have been power on, power off the whole time. So the advantage there going to this wing sail that not only cants up to 15 degrees each side, but could also be raked fore and aft, and has a lot of hydraulic controls. But with this kind of system, it actually takes a lot of the load away. We're talking 20 tons on an average main sheet of this size, and with this system they're down to just barely 3 tons on a 2-to-1 purchase, which really is kind of being able to hold the rope in your hand, which you don't expect with something this size. But well, we're on our way to the Windward Mark, and we're going to take a commercial break and come back and see the excitement as it develops between Alinghi and BMW Oracle.
Welcome back to the waters off Valencia. BMW Oracle have overcome the disadvantage they had in terms of distance at the start and now lead by over 240 meters, having trailed by 600 or so earlier on. There you go, 396 currently. The Swiss boat, Alinghi 5, with the red and yellow diagonal striped flag by its name, still has a penalty turn to do before the windward mark as Oracle wind in a sail.
Now there's confidence for you. They're so far ahead, they're not even worried about sailing without a head sail. They filled their head sail and they haven't yet replaced it with another one yet. They're just happily sailing on their wing. But the distance and the advantage is dropping there, so
we could see that come back out again.
We could see something happen. There must be a reason for getting rid of that sail. It may be that they're going to tack, possibly. You can hear some of the loads being released on something on that boat. It sounded quite ominous.
Yeah, that deep groaning sound, never a good sound.
Never a good sound, but you can see their speed differential. BMW Oracle is still happily sailing faster without the need of a head sail. And I can tell you what that groaning was. You can just see the sag in their forestay. They would have released some of the load there, keeping that luff tension, because they don't need it now. They're just sailing on their wing alone and still sailing faster than Alinghi 5 on the water.
The speed difference is quite considerable, really, and just the speed and all the amount of time that it took the American boat to make up that difference is an ominous sign for Alinghi. It could be quite a beating today for them.
We could be seeing a BMW Oracle storming, and Alinghi will have to put their heads together and come up with something quite special to come out, if this race continues the way it's looking, for them to come out on Sunday with something up their sleeve to surprise BMW Oracle there. But the wing clearly is a good thing. They're saying that that wing actually reduces the size by 50% of what they would need if they had a conventional soft sail that Alinghi have. So it's actually making controlling it much easier for the team, and hence they're needing a few less sailors on board. But we can see their advantage is up to just under 500 meters there, and they're literally on the wing alone.
450 just coming up, yeah. And they've got the much the better line.
That's it. Just to remind you, that windward mark is 20 miles away from the start line, and it's a starboard rounding. So they're going to be setting themselves up and going around that mark before they do the big bear away and accelerate downwind.
Wonderful sight of BMW Oracle, but just time to tell you about tennis from Paris over on Eurosport 2. Soha Peer against Lucy Safarova in the Paris indoor from the WTA Tour. And Safarova has the edge. She's a break to the good. Peer serving at 3-5. This, of course, is the quarterfinals. If you were with us earlier, you would have seen Pennetta move through to the semis. And Well, there's excitement in Paris, there's excitement out here on the waters of Valencia, and there's also excitement coming your way tomorrow, because it is, of course, the 2010 Winter Olympics from Vancouver. The opening ceremony is on Saturday, 2 a.m. and it's live on British Eurosport and Eurosport HD. It's 2 a.m. in the morning, and if that's too early or late for you, it's going to be rerun Saturday morning, 11:30 a.m. British Eurosport, and again in high definition. 24/7 comprehensive coverage of the games will get underway, and the pick of the action from day one is the men's downhill from Whistler. That will be at 7:30 p.m. live on the British Eurosport and Eurosport HD. So be sure to tune in and hear Nick Fellows and John Clark take you through the Blue Ribbon event from the Alpine skiing. Right, back here, and well, Alinghi making a fight of this. They've clawed back 100 meters or so.
But we've got to say that actually BMW crossed that start line some 600 meters behind Alinghi, and it took them just over 10 minutes to make that deficit up and get ahead. So very impressive performance from the BMW Oracle Trimaran against Alinghi's Fives Catamaran. And they're going to be scratching their heads trying to think of what they can pull out of the bag to make a difference. Clearly something's making a difference, because they have managed to close that gap a little, but they still do have their penalty turn against them. So it's not over by a long shot, we know that, but it's going to be interesting to see how and when they do their turn.
Well, and of course the head cell has been wound in by Oracle.
Now the theory behind that is they're still maintaining the same speed, but they're able to sail a little higher without their head sail, so they're pointing much more towards the mark than Alinghi 5 are, and have proved that they can keep the speed. But we're just seeing now that difference between the two down to just 260 meters between the two boats. The chase boat's managing to keep up there in the background, and you can hear the helicopters in the background getting the footage of these spectacular boats. Over 200 sensors, all those black little dots you can see on the mast of BMW Oracle are sensors for loads and wind information, so that the trimmers can get the information. It comes down to a PDA strapped to their wrist, and they get information from all their sails and loads, so they know how close to the edge they're pushing this boat.
This will be maybe the perfect race with all that technology there for them to use.
And you probably just saw there some of the crew lying down. It's not they've gone for a sleep, they don't need a rest yet. They're actually making themselves as wind efficient as possible. They've spent a fortune on this boat in technology for minimising drag and stopping resistance, and the last thing they need is a load of people stood up making a windbreak, because it all stops the speed.
So the 10 men on board BMW Oracle have the advantage over the 14 on board Alinghi 5. The distance is dropping at the moment. Both teams, well, Alinghi's largest lead, what, 660 wasn't it, and BMW, what, around 450. But Alinghi fighting back, but
pulling those miles back in.
Yeah, but the advantage firmly with the American boat because of that penalty turn that Alinghi 5 still has to do.
I think you find that Alinghi 5 now have moved into the same pressure band that BMW Oracle are in, which is why they're matching and managing to be a little faster at times, therefore closing the gap between the boats. And they're obviously working very hard at it.
Yeah, well, we've been underway, what, 34 minutes? Almost, oh, sorry, 30 minutes. And, well, the lead has changed hands several times, but the Americans firmly in control at this moment, and they will obviously be by far the happier of the two crews.
the decision of whether to be the chased or the chaser. Gives them something to focus on, having BMW Oracle ahead of them. The fact they're pointing slightly higher will be very frustrating, but Alinghi are clearly working together and trying to be efficient, because that gap has reduced between the two boats. Although their boat speed is now matching, they're still at the moment just currently falling a little behind on BMW Oracle there.
Both speeds almost identical before the Americans pull ahead. And it's all very comfortable.
Again, just looking at the boats there on the water, Alinghi looks a lot flatter, looks a lot less powered up, and BMW seem to be finding it very easy to stay powered up, so maybe an indication of the wing. And you can see from that graphic we've barely even made an impression onto this 20-mile leg.
Here is the virtual eye. No, we're not. It's halfway anyway, so the boats have to come around from the left-hand side of that mark on your screen to perform a starboard turn around it. So they need to change direction at some stage. Who will be the first to blink?
It'll be interesting. They're both following the coastline here, where the breeze will be quite consistent because it's an even distance off, and very little thermal effect because it's pretty cold out there, especially with the wind chill that they've got going at 20 knots. Hence all the woolly hats on board. But they will have to at some point tack out and head offshore in order to get to that windward mark, and there they may see variations in the pressure of the wind, which will be tactically very difficult to manage, and their boats will have to work quite hard.
Well, BMW just dropping back a little bit. And well, both boats, as Dee said, seem to be in the same system at the moment.
Again, you can hear the groans in the background where loads are being changed, and lines are being either eased or tensioned. That noisy groan is a good noise, I can assure you. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. But it'd be interesting to maybe see the picture from James Spittle's sunglasses.
Well, that would be an interesting view.
He won't be looking back at Alinghi's bow like we are currently, because he's going to be concentrating on what's ahead and what his boat's telling him. He's got all the readings fed to his navigator, Matteo Plazzi, and he can call for the heads-up display on his sunglasses to be changed to any page he wishes, and Matteo will press the button and make sure that comes up. Very mission impossible. But they're making it seem very possible at the moment, with BMW Oracle being in the lead and being in control of this first race of the 33rd America's Cup, where defenders Alinghi are fighting to stay in the battle.
Well, the boats, I could have a chat, couldn't they? They are quite close. Maybe with a megaphone.
They could try that as a distraction tactic,
well,
maybe.
I think Alinghi 5 are going to need all the help they can get.
It's impressive they're matching speed-wise with each other, but we have to remember that BMW Oracle are doing this with just their wing flying and aren't even needing a head sail out, whereas Alinghi are working everything they've got.
Well, at this sort of rate, you'd imagine there is another, what, hour and 50 minutes of racing remaining. We'll have to wait and see. But we're going to have a quick break. Be sure to join us for this 33rd edition of the America's Cup. Well, not much has changed since you've been away. BMW Oracle still have the advantage over the Defender's Alinghi 5, but well, the wind speed about 6 to 8 knots, boat speed anywhere between 18 and 22 knots, so roughly 3 to 4 times the wind speed. Indeed, that's an impressive stat.
Very impressive, especially when you're looking at them. It all just seems so easy just seeing them sailing. And they're coming up now. It's just 12 miles of this 20-mile windward leg to the mark, where they'll be doing a starboard rounding. Starboard being the right for the non-sailors.
Yep, so they have to come from the left and pass the mark on the starboard or right-hand side of the boat. Now here is a replay of the start, and what we were so impressed with here, Dee, of course, was the manoeuvrability of Alinghi 5, and concerned about the inability of the manoeuvrability of BMW Oracle.
Yeah, it was bizarre the way BMW Oracle just couldn't get themselves going from being caught the wrong side of the start line and just dead to any wind at all. And Alinghi got back behind the start line in time and nailed the start, but unfortunately had already incurred the penalty on the dial-up, so have the penalty against them. And it took BMW a little time there to...
Just on that replay, we heard recall yellow, which of course would be BMW.
Yeah, so because they were the wrong side of the course at the start line, they therefore had to get going, get back behind the racecourse start line to get going, again. Which is where Alinghi ended up with a 600-metre advantage, which they lost, and we've now got BMW Oracle in the lead at 278 metres between the two boats. So Alinghi losing a little bit of ground there, and we've got less than 12 miles to the windward mark. And Alinghi, don't forget, still have the penalty turn curse hanging over their heads.
Well, that could be a rather large nail in the coffin.
But we're thinking Ernesto Bertarelli is still driving Alinghi, an accomplished multi-hull sailor anyway, and he's got a lot of confidence in the people around him giving the information. But they're just not seeming to match the trimaran of BMW Oracle on the water today. They were pretty much for speed for a while, but they seem to just be depowering a lot easier and losing out on the pace, whereas BMW seem a lot more consistent out there, looking very impressive. James Spittle must have a sly smile underneath that steely look of determination he has.
Well, I guess the point is the guys on BMW Oracle don't need to do anything spectacular, do they? They know that Alinghi have to perform this penalty turn, so why try and pull out a big lead when they can just pull out the lead as and when the Swiss boat makes that penalty turn?
That's right. It's about minimising risk as much as pushing the envelope. I mean, they went into the start area with a strategy, and they asserted dominance and surprised us all with that confrontation resulting in the penalty to Alinghi. Now they just need to sail safe, sail consistent, knowing that they've got Alinghi's penalty turn between them, if nothing else. But they're showing that they've still got the advantage, and you can see we've been on a port tack up the windward beat since the start, and we're just about 12 miles, slightly less from the windward mark, and there's 400, over 400 metres between the two boats now.
The American boat really pulling away, even without its head sail out, and just extending it without really doing too much, just covering the Alinghi movements. So if Alinghi decide to try something in order to pull this back, then BMW, if they want to, can just mirror them until such time that the Alinghi crew perform their penalty turn, and then BMW will carry on its merry way. And that lead of 4:12, which from this camera angle doesn't appear to be so big, well, will extend and could well go out to over a kilometre.
Well, we'll have to see. Remember, the speed these boats are sailing at are incredible. You get a little sense there with you watching the wake off that leeward hull that's still in the water. Really is impressive. And that means that something like 450 metres can be easily lost again at speeds of 20 knots, as we're seeing these boats are doing. Pretty well matched. So there's obviously a certain wind range where the boats are very even on the wind speed. But for two radically very different designs, I think everyone that's been the brains of these operations is relieved to see that they have actually developed boats that do race well and are racing pretty evenly, surprisingly.
Yeah, it seems strange that the deed of gift should be so wide that you could have two completely different types of boats in it. I mean, if you're going to go for a multi-hull, the Swiss should have said, well, no, let's stick with what we know best, go for the cat instead of the try.
Well, it's interesting. The Challenger of race has that protocol of this is what we'll be racing, but they gave a 90-foot by 90-foot dimension, which immediately said trimaran to the Swiss team, and they looked at it and decided on the catamaran as a way of saving weight and being clever with design to get something more competitive. The nice thing is they're not radically different. These boats aren't a million miles away in boat speed, but we've just got this height differential with the wing there. But we think that maybe downwind, Alinghi might have an advantage being a slightly lighter boat. More versatility on the sail plan, but I really think we may see some changes on the downwind leg too.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe that will spice things up a little bit.
But we've now got 500 metres between the two boats, and BMW Oracle not always given justice in some of the shots we're seeing, but clearly ahead. That one's a better indication of that distance between them changing. But Alinghi mustn't lose heart. We all know in sailing that absolutely anything can happen at any time. These boats are still pretty much untested, and we still have the big bear away at the windward mark before we go on the downwind leg. And at these speeds, downwind will still feel to the sailors as if they're going upwind, because that apparent wind will come very far forwards and their downwind sails will be very flat, not your big spinnaker that we're used to seeing, but a flat head sail that we're more likely to see going upwind. So it'll be interesting to see this bear away manoeuvre and the downwind leg too.
What do you think Ernesto Bertarelli and his crew are saying on there at the moment? No panic stations yet?
Well, I think inside all of them will be a little frustrated. They're going to be kind of questioning, but they can't afford for their heads to go down. It's really important that they focus on the race right through to the end, because you never know, something could break on BMW Oracle and it could be game over for them. So they really have to stay in it, and then there'll be a big debrief session at the end of the race, and the thinking caps will go on. They have a rest day tomorrow, and the race 2 will convene on Sunday morning, and hopefully they'll decide what they need to do differently if this distance between the two boats continues to grow like this. There clearly needs to be something that happens. So we're just seeing there the difference in the distance between the two boats and the distance along the course. Over 500 metres between the two boats now. And there's going to be some, nobody will be celebrating yet, but there'll be some smirks and smiles, to, especially from the design team, as we said, to know that they've delivered.
Well, the New York court may not need to make a decision on the sail issue, because should BMW Oracle win this race and race 2, which is scheduled for Sunday, then no need. Or I guess it may set a precedent for later on.
Well, yeah, I mean, they still need to make these decisions because of the historic nature of the America's Cup with this deed of gift and making it clearer for events editions of the race to go on in the future, so that we don't spend all these months in court battling wallets, but actually we have a protocol, we have a system in place, and boats get out on the water and nations compete. I mean, that would be the dream. But I'm sure if we look at the race course now, we're over halfway up on a port tack up the beat. So far it's been one-sided. They've stayed on a port tack, but they've got a starboard rounding, so they're going to be looking at attack, and the navigators and tacticians will be trying to decide when that's going to happen.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. And they are now about 10 miles from the mark. And as Dee says, when will that tack come?
And BMW Oracle there, James Spittle driving, and Dirk de Ridder trimming that wing sail. So he has control with Joey Newton as his caddy, helping him on trimming this immense beast that is absolutely phenomenal, propelling them at over 20 knots up this track and into the lead.
So BMW Oracle continue to dominate. Will things change after this break? Join us to find out. We'll be back in a minute. So BMW Oracle have their largest lead, 670, just coming down a tad, but they certainly won't be worried about that. Serenely on their way. So Dee, I guess the question is, if Oracle have the advantage going upwind, and we think Alinghi have the advantage coming downwind, where does the advantage lie tomorrow, or Sunday, sorry, with the triangular race?
Well, that race is set as the first leg of 13 miles being to windward, and therefore, because it's an equilateral triangle, we've got 13-mile legs, we've got a reaching leg and a downwind driving leg. So actually it would be reaching and downwind that Alinghi would be confident in. And clearly we're seeing an outstanding upwind performance with BMW Oracle here. So it actually goes 2-1 on the legs of a triangle to Alinghi's favour. So they will fight hard for that race, because they want to force this best of 3 to 3 matches. And it would be true testament also. And we just...
Have Alinghi tacked? I think Alinghi have gone.
Like Alinghi have tacked. We've got information, there's 7 knots of breeze at the top mark. And these guys are about 10 miles from that mark, and Alinghi have tacked, so they've tacked first. It all went pretty smoothly.
Yeah, it seemed to.
So we're on opposite tacks, and we're just waiting if BMW also tack, or whether they're going to continue a little longer.
It looks like they're curving. That wake, or is that just the... No, it's just the TV screen.
Yeah, misleading picture, but there's definitely some action going on. Where they've all been lying on the windward hull, they're all now walking around.
They're all congregating on the leeward hull, aren't they?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a tack from BMW Oracle. The giveaway will be James Spittle will turn the helm and then walk along the back beam to his other helm's position. So keep an eye on him with his backpack, and we'll know when it's going to happen. They're currently doing 23 knots, and although all the crew have moved around, they still haven't tacked yet. Alinghi didn't lose too much in their tack. It looked pretty pain-free, and took about less than half a minute in total. But BMW Oracle here continuing on a port tack. It's very deceiving with the helicopter shots panning in at different angles.
Looks like they're starting to move, but they are moving now. No, they are going. Here comes the tack.
And James Spittle.
He's still there. He's still there. It's him standing up, not the one crawling. And Oh, how's that gone? They seem to have lost a bit of momentum there. There goes Spittle.
Across. See him in his backpack.
There he goes. Now the wake still looks good. And they're off and running again. Now let's have a look at that virtual eye to see what's difference that has made. And well, that is what we're looking at now. But Alinghi have closed it a little bit. But Oracle still have the advantage.
Windward advantage by a long shot there. But somebody had to go. We knew it was going to be coming up. Somebody had to go first. And Brad Butterworth would have called that tack in conjunction with Murray Jones and Juan Villa on Alinghi 5.
Well, we reckon that Alinghi lost about 300 metres in that tack, with BMW still continuing on. So they've got to go 360 and the tack isn't even 180. That's a lot of metres.
So it is a lot of metres. I mean, that's just going to cost them dearly. What they've got to do now is just sail this course as best they can to clear the gap, so that then they can get the best possible position to be in to then do that 360 they've got outstanding.
Well, they could be losing somewhere in the region of a kilometre.
But it's a big call now.
Kilometre.
Big call for the ley line. So both boats having tacked. We think BMW Oracle won about 150 metres on that manoeuvre. And they're both going up now on the other tack, and they've got to get the ley line right to pass that windward mark. You don't want to be short of it, because that's going to cost you 2 more tacks minimum.
Yeah.
But you don't want to sail beyond it, because you're just wasting time and mileage.
Well, both boats now, as you can see, quite some distance apart. Almost twice as far apart as there is distance between them. And as you can see, they need to pass that number 1 from the left-hand side. So the starboard reaches, so passing the mark on the right-hand side.
So we're pretty impressive here. The boats have put in a really good display so far. Stayed pretty close, pretty even on boat speed in the right winds. But what we are seeing is BMW Oracle sailing that bit higher and more consistently, which is why that gap's increased. We've done a tack, we're now on starboard tack, and everyone's now concentrating on when that ley line will be to starboard round on the windward mark, so leaving it on their right.
This is the lull before the storm around the top mark. So we're getting news that Alinghi's speed only dropped 10 knots through the tack. So that's pretty impressive.
Pretty good manoeuvre, especially when it can't be easy moving something of this size.
But the speed difference is huge, isn't it?
Alinghi are just really missing out on consistency. They're just up and down the whole time, and that's why they're losing the distance they are at the rate they are. This must be filling BMW Oracle with immense confidence. But we still yet to see the performance of the 2 boats against each other on the downwind leg.
Yep. So we'll have to wait and see. That'll be coming up shortly when they perform the turn round the mark. So back to Paris, and Shah Harpeer in a lot of trouble. She's match point down and a set down and quite a lot of breaks down as well. Will Safarova book her place in the semi-final? She will. Safarova is through to the semi-finals of the WTA Tour event in Paris. 6-3, 6-love. So congratulations to her as she takes the applause of the crowd in Paris. Well, that is a picture. BMW Oracle serene at the moment.
It looks good, but it's still pretty cold temperature there in Valencia, and even though it's predicted to be Mediterranean and you dream of sunshine, it's actually the winter and it is cold, but not as cold as it is in Vancouver.
No, well, no indeed, although they could be doing with some snow, couldn't they? And ahead of the Olympics, obviously, which start today in Vancouver, but due to the time difference, the opening ceremony will be broadcasted at 2 AM live on Saturday morning on British Eurosport and Eurosport HD, with a rerun coming on Saturday morning 11:30 AM, a much more civilised time for those of you not doing night shifts, I guess, on British Eurosport, and again in high definition. And also don't forget, we do have 24/7 comprehensive coverage of the games when they get underway, and it starts with a real bang, and that is, of course, the men's downhill from Whistler, Saturday 7:30 PM live on British Eurosport and Eurosport HD. Can Manuel Osborne Paradis bring it home for the Canadians, or will Bodie Miller get one for the Americans, or even the Swiss or the Austrians? It promises to be a cracking race, and we are waiting for this turn round the top mark, and well, BMW Oracle now in total command of this opening race of the 33rd America's Cup in Valencia. And well, the guys on the Alinghi have just got to keep going, but this piece of technical wizardry is certainly performing.
Well, they're on starboard tack now, and they're looking at the mark now, concentrating on when the ley line will be. And Alinghi really want to close that distance before either boat bears away around the mark, because their confidence, where their strength may be, could be on the downwind section. And they need to be close to BMW Oracle to prove that they're the dominant boat in those conditions. But BMW Oracle really are demonstrating good control and dominance between the two boats, and Alinghi have a fight. They need to do something special.
Well, not only do they do something special, they're running out of time to perform their penalty turn.
Yeah, they need to remember they've got to do that. And I think that decision will come once they see how they fare on the downwind leg. With the difference that BMW Oracle have ahead of them, it's not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to get far enough ahead to make that turn feel no difference.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, everything has gone right so far for the American boat. And the lead is out to over 1,000 meters. And it is rocketing up, my word, just look at that go.
The problem we have now with the boats separating the way they are is slightly different pressure systems. With light breeze, there'll be differences in pressure at that distance. So we could see the two boats feeling different winds, which would help explain why Alinghi is slightly less powered up. But they've been struggling this whole course on consistency, and that's where BMW Oracle have done very well, having their windward hull flying all of the time and being very consistent around 20 knots of boat speed.
Well, I guess Alinghi got nothing to lose. They've got to try something in order to get back on track. And, well, they're still some way, aren't they, from that mark. A lot of racing still left. We've been going about an hour. And that is the predicted time. So still, well, still another hour and a half, 30 minutes or so before we'll get to see what Alinghi's got in the locker on the downwind leg. And wow, that has just rocketed, hasn't it, in the last few seconds? You're shaking your head.
I am shaking my head. I think we're seeing just how good the BMW Oracle Trimaran is with that wing sail, and seeing them perform so well, we need to recover from this spectacle and come back after the commercial break, where hopefully we won't see that distance grow anymore.
No, we'll wait and see. See you in a minute.
Well, we're back in Valencia watching even boat speeds between the two boats, but that hasn't always been the case. Alinghi struggling to keep up with BMW Oracle, and their lead has grown to over 1,200 metres. We're about 6 miles from the windward mark, and there's still breeze at the windward mark of about 7 knots at a direction of 165. But both boats on a starboard tack, and Alinghi struggling with the height that BMW Oracle is showing. But BMW Oracle are just making sure they're constantly keeping track of where Alinghi is, not letting them go in a different direction, but clearly displaying their dominance on this racetrack today. I think both teams are relieved that the boats are racing and doing well and not a million miles apart. But this 1,200 metres will seem a million miles apart to the crew of Alinghi, who have been losing out after that initial start where they got across the line and BMW had to return because they were the wrong side of the line at the start gun. But they do still have a penalty turn against them because they were caught out in the dial-up in the pre-start. But they're just not managing to match the American boat at the moment. So we've got this final leg up to the windward mark and then sailing the 20 miles downwind. We've yet to see these boats against each other downwind, but I think a lot of people are impressed with the dominance BMW Oracle has shown in the performance so far.
Well, that may look close, but that tells you it isn't.
Chase boats are staying with their teams, and the on-water umpires are also on the water there. There's also a rib at the windward mark and an area that's sectioned off for spectator boats should anybody wanting to see the mark rounding there. There were a number of boats out on the water today, clear skies, encouraged more people out on the water, flat water as well after the big swell that we had that postponed the racing that was due to take part on Wednesday. So great conditions all round really, and in light breeze, a remarkable race going on with these phenomenal machines doing up to 20 knots at a time. It's far from over though, we have to remember that.
Yeah, still a long way to go, anything can happen. We cast our mind back to the last edition. Team New Zealand, when they came round the mark, ripped their sail.
That's right, it really is one of those sports where it's not over till we've crossed the line, and we've seen so many things happen that are unexpected, that catch the teams unawares. Not that we wish that on either team today. It is nice after 30 months spent fighting in the courts to finally have these machines on the water in action, and looking mighty impressive.
I guess another question I haven't asked you, as you know, the sailor, is what damage do you think this has done to the sport of sailing?
Well, earlier in the week, as we saw 2 days get postponed, it was starting to be questioned about the commercial viability. We spend a lot of time in the sport trying to convince media that they want to follow the sport and that we can make it exciting and interesting. And here we have the sport at the top of its game, with enough finances behind it to make the television coverage possible and easy. And for 2 days it didn't quite deliver, and it was beginning to be quite embarrassing, having spent so long in the law courts to then not quite end up racing in the place they wanted and how they wanted, and then not delivering the racing to a timetable.
But I mean, even the venue's been decided by court. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, to people that are not in the know.
Well, it had two effects. The court battle actually got people talking about it, because it was so unusual to have a sailing event battled mainly in the law courts before they even got to the water. But it also had a negative effect of turning people off, because it's so complex, so difficult to understand the history and the legal side of it all, that all people want to do is actually see boats on the water racing. And the last few days it's been difficult. We've had not enough wind, and we've had waves that were too big and maybe too much wind. And the sailing that people are talking about are extreme. We've seen the Vendée Globe, where sailors battle any conditions on their own. The Volvo Ocean Race, which is that emotional journey that these people have gone on, and it's exciting and they tackle anything. And then here we have what's meant to be the pinnacle of the sport, actually saying that they couldn't go out in any of the conditions presented to them. So it's been a bit of a battle, and very hard to keep the general public and the sailing fraternity following something. But just seeing that dial up at the start almost made that wait worthwhile, because that was amazing to see two 90-foot beasts
going at each other head
together.
to head.
Yeah.
We were this point to go, it's going to be a head on.
It was looking really, really nasty, especially from the aerial view we had. But
especially after being joking about insurance policies and no claims bonus.
That's right, and I think even some of the sailors will have held their breath. And we're just seeing now a sail going up on BMW. They furled their head sail some time ago and have been sailing convincingly, increasing the lead with just their wing, and now they've got a head sail going up, which I would hazard a guess would be their sail they're preparing for the downwind part of the course.
Just going back to the popularity of it, is, you know, after the 32nd edition, which was incredibly exciting. Even the Louis Vuitton series was very exciting, and then when it came to the battle between Team Emirates, Team New Zealand and Alinghi, even for those that aren't die-hard sailors, it really was fascinating, almost must-watch television. But then, you know, you rev yourself up thinking, oh, that was brilliant, it's all going to happen again, and then you have this lawsuit, that lawsuit, here, there, and you just think...
The event itself lost momentum. If we'd managed to follow 2007
followed up with the same sort of series, it would have been fantastic.
Exactly,
I mean,
because people, even if you didn't understand it, with the graphics and technology the way we have it now, it was getting easier and easier to understand, and therefore attracting the non-sailing public too, as you say. And it looked spectacular, and the venue was great, the infrastructure around it was great, and it was exciting. And they didn't need this endless months of sailing remotely around the ocean to make it passionate. They saw it with the teams putting everything they could into short, hard, fast racing. So it's a shame it lost that momentum, but hopefully now this will kind of reignite people to the America's Cup, and hopefully those talking about maybe presenting a Challenger Series again for the 34th edition, and maybe getting that Louis Vuitton trophy style back again.
Yeah,
get
well,
people
it'd be
excited.
interesting. I think it'd be good for the sport, you know, as an outsider, not as a sailor, but certainly someone who follows the America's Cup and sailing. It kind of loses it a little bit. I mean, there is the build-up, but when you see the Louis Vuitton going, you really get into it. You know, you find your team or whatever it may be, and you really look forward to it. And
That's right, and I think 2007 was claimed at the biggest and best series, just because we had so many nations coming in. I mean, we had the Socialoza team from South Africa, which is a fabulous following just for the party spirit, if nothing else. We've had Team Origin ourselves. Great Britain have had a team sat on standby for a long time now, so they just want to get involved in the action again, and it needs to be opened up not just to the 2 elite, but to all those others capable of racing.
Yeah, well, I'll ask you about the British team and British sailing shortly. We're just having a look at the virtual eye overhead, the boats making their way up to the mark for the turn, and they'll come back downwind to the finish. 20 miles up, 20 miles back. Straight drag race, if you like, on the way back down.
Yeah, and on the course, the breeze has picked up a little bit more, and the boats are thinking about this ley line ahead of them, of getting round the windward mark, but also thinking of what sail plan they're going to have downwind. And we saw BMW Oracle there just sailing on their wing, but actually getting organised with their head sails as well.
Yeah,
so
the giant Jenny is about to make an appearance.
Yeah, it looked big, but we know that's not as big as Alinghi's Jenica, which is one of the 3 largest in the world at 1,100 square metres.
That's phenomenal, isn't it? Well, we'll have to wait and see how that one of the 3 largest sails affects this race. But before all that, we're going to have a little break, and we will be back for the turn and the rest of the race. So we are coming up towards the windward mark. BMW Oracle, the boat at the top of your picture, with the advantage over Alinghi 5, which you can just see the top of the mainsail in the front of the screen. Just having a little bit of a check, making sure everything's okay. Maybe this could be part of the reason, but that doesn't, well, it doesn't seem to bode well, but we'll have to wait and see what that means for Alinghi. Now, Alinghi obviously have to do a penalty turn at some stage before the end of the race, so I guess they will wait and see to see how much advantage they can gain back on the downward leg of the race, and how much the Jenny will work in their favour. But at the moment, they need something to happen for them. And you just see that windward skid just bounce back into the sea. As they try and plot their way up to this windward mark. And we're just seeing that downwind, there's very little difference between the apparent wind angle generated to that of the upwind. Only 5 or 6 degrees, but the breeze has dropped a little for both as they approach this port ley line. Around 10 knots at the windward mark, coming from 160 degrees, so just east of south, 20 degrees east of south. America, BMW Oracle Racing Team with a lead of 1,100 odd meters. Firmly in control. Look at that, edging their way down. And Alinghi. Apologies, that's BMW. There is James Spittle the backpack that Dee's been talking about that feeds all the information into his Mission Impossible Sunnies. So far, so good for this giant try. We've been going an hour and 20 minutes.
It doesn't really give you a true sense when you see those shots of just how high those people are on the windward float, because that's a pretty long way from the water when they're perched out there precariously. They won't want to slip at any time.
No. Slipping would not be good. Yeah, Dee, you've been going on about it, but it's just the smoothness of the Oracle boat.
That's right, as we're watching there, their windward float is permanently at a height above the water and it's very consistent, so therefore their speed's consistent and they've been able to keep their gains. Whereas Alinghi, when you watch them, are sometimes flying a hull, sometimes very flat, and it's that inconsistency that's costing them boat speed and has cost them now looking at that 1,200 metres. And remember, they were in the lead ahead by 600 metres. We knew they had a penalty turn, but BMW Oracle just showing their dominance by letting us see just how easy it was for them to not only gain that lost ground back, but then gain so much beyond that. That graphic there just told us an indication of how long left on this starboard tack to the ley line where they could tack for the windward mark, which is a starboard rounding. The mark will be on their right hand side before they bear away for the downwind leg. James Spittle really out there on his own in his driving pod there, but he's in constant communication. Don't think they're not talking to him out there. They have internal comms on the boat, so therefore he can always talk to his navigator and tactician. Navigator Matteo Plazzi has all the readouts of all the sensors on the boat and is in control of changing the heads-up display that comes up on James Spittle's sunglasses. So it's almost like having his own private instruments to look at, so he can change at any time. And John Kostecki, the tactician on BMW Oracle, is constantly in negotiation with both James and Matteo to make the decision of when to tack and keeping an eye on what the competition are doing, because they want to lose cover. They don't want to lose sight of Alinghi. They want to be within distance if they need to do something, so they don't want to separate themselves too much. But their boat speed alone is allowing them to succeed.
Yeah, the way things are going at the moment, it's theirs to lose, isn't it, this race?
Definitely, their advantage now.
And there's a tack
1,300 metres and they're tacking now.
for the port ley line for this windward mark.
See that windward board coming out of the water as they went through that tack. The reason they furl the sail for the tack is to get it round the baby stay, that little stay in the middle of the boat there that helps hold the mast up. That was pretty smooth.
A lot of groaning as the pressures come off and on.
Creaks and loads throughout the carbon structures there, but that was a very smooth manoeuvre indeed.
Well, on what we've seen earlier on the first beat, the Alinghi boat will have to go further and come back because they haven't been able to sail as high, have they?
They haven't been able to sail as high, and if they were to tack now, they'd definitely have at least 2 tacks more to do. So their choice is to cover the distance more direct with more tacks or just keep going for longer. But this is definite domination by
they'll have to go.
boat.
But the point is made, they'll have to go past the point where Oracle tacked because their inability to sail as high.
That's right. They'll be sailing. They're sailing a good few degrees lower, which is why that distance has been growing between the two boats. So they're going to struggle. And BMW Oracle here have gone back to having a head sail with their wing. They don't need to concentrate on height. They're happy on their ley line that they've got. They're 2-sail sailing here. And that's them prepped for their downwind leg.
So 5 or 6 minutes, and oh, that's a depressing sight. And that gives you a really good indication of the gap between the two boats.
And even a sense of the speed. If you look at the trailing wake from each boat, BMW Oracle on the right-hand side there has got a wake, and Alinghi are barely making a wake, showing the difference in power. It's a relative thing, though, because that's still pretty impressive sailing.
Yeah. Ernesto Bertarelli still steering Alinghi. And well, that's a big distance.
They're going to feel pretty isolated out on the course now, because they're pointing a different direction, and seeing BMW Oracle sail away from them towards the mark will be pretty frustrating. So they need to keep...
They're going now, though.
Heads on the course.
Or are they going for their penalty turn? They've still got that hanging over them as well. No, that looks like they're just going to try and get on that port lay line. Not easy running across that meshing. It's like running on a trampoline.
Running on a trampoline while doing 20 knots over very cold water. So not the easiest environment to be in, but there they are trying to get out of creating any windage, therefore drag and slowing the boat down. Brad Butterworth there adjusting the ballast, so they're pumping ballast in and out, and he's in the back there trying to think what he can do to make a difference to gain back that lost distance between the two boats.
Well, they're doing all they can to try and get their boat back on even turns, but look at that. Oh, that is not good viewing if you're an Alinghi fan.
It's impressive, just the stats that are coming back after that tack on BMW Oracle. Their speed dropped 6.5 knots as they tacked, but it was so quick they were back up to speed without really too much of a hitch at all, so very impressive.
That's what they're trying to do now, and BMW Oracle look to have enough height to make it round. Impressive speed from both boats on the tack.
It's a scary place to be, being in that rib marking the windward mark, seeing these two beasts bearing down at you.
Almost up to 1.5 kilometres, the advantage for Oracle. We'll bring you the action after this break. So we are approaching the windward mark, and BMW Oracle have a huge advantage over the defenders Alinghi. And what a sight this is. Look how small that rib looks compared to this beast bearing down on it.
You think that's small? Try being the person on board.
Yeah.
That's to watch them round the mark. Look at the armada behind them trying to keep up.
I know.
They'll all have to get out of the way pretty smartish when they bear away and head downwind.
Here they come then. Alinghi making a little bit of a dent into the deficit. Still with a penalty hanging over them. Lots of pointing going on.
So the crew members there getting set up on the middle float, ready for the bear away at the mark, getting their line sorted. They've got that big head sail hoisted ahead of their upwind sail, the big bear away now as they round the mark.
Through the mark. You wouldn't want to be on that boat if they straddled you with one of their skids either side.
Definitely unfurling the big downwind sail there.
We saw them just getting that ready, didn't we, before we went to the break, and just trying to fill it with the wind as quickly as possible.
And the upwind jib already being furled away. And here we go, trimming. And now the wind will still feel to them as if it's almost upwind sailing. You can see that's pretty flat shaped downwind sail, but it's just because of the speed these boats go at, brings the apparent wind, what they feel, very far forwards.
It's taken them about an hour and a half to do the 20 miles up, and it will be slightly quicker down wind.
Slightly quicker downwind. They can't go in a direct straight line because they're going to want to jibe to keep the angles, to keep the boat speed up. So whereas before they tacked, this time they'll be jibing on their way down.
And the Swiss will have a good view of the American boat as it disappears off with the extra sails downwind, but we'll be hoping, or they'll be hoping, that the advantage that is thought to be with them is actually with them.
Well, time's been called on Alinghi to hoist this downwind sail that they're hoping will give them a bit of speed advantage over BMW Oracle. They've got good speed at the moment because they're still upwind, the apparent's building, but they've got to hope that this downwind sail that's going up now, we're watching, will give them the advantage as they round the mark. The navigator Juan Villa will be calling the time. Bertorelli's still at the helm.
Still some distance from that mark. Have they got enough height? Camera angles can be deceiving. It looks like they do. There doesn't seem to be much frantic activity to suggest that they don't.
No, the fact that they've hoisted that head sail makes me confident that they know they're going to make it. They're just checking that the furling lines are free there. The bowman there, the lines he's holding, just to make sure that it'll unfurl cleanly and they won't have any snags.
No, and they certainly do have enough height. They've just got to make sure they turn at the right time.
Slight bear away there as they're getting ready. See them coming into the mark.
So over 2.5 minutes
see how big
gone.
that gap is.
Well, you did say that the gap would be minutes as opposed to seconds, and you're being proved correct at the moment. We haven't seen that for a while.
Yeah, it's follow my leader, unfortunately. It would have been better with them being close. So we've currently got about 7 knots here at this windward mark as we watch Alinghi round the mark.
Breeze is about 7 knots at the windward mark as Alinghi prepare to bear away. And here they go. The armada of ships behind them. And safely round that. So they need to get this big Jenny unfurled as quickly as they can.
There's something going on. I expected that to have been out a little quicker. Here we go. So that'll come out and that head sail jib will be furled away. And they'll be on a mission to make up the deficit.
110 square meters. 1,100 square meters.
That's a lot of sailcloth.
So many figures flying around in this high-tech sport. Now, what can they do? That is the distance they need to make up. Here is the virtual eye. Oh, that's 1,500, rising to 16. At quite a swift pace. And
3 minutes 20 between BMW Oracle's rounding and Alinghi's rounding. That's some margin. And don't forget, they've still got to do their penalty turn.
So, those of you who are hoping for a close race will be slightly disappointed. But there's well, 19.5 miles or so of racing left, so still, I guess, plenty of time for anything to happen, although it's been a good day at the office so far for Larry Ellison's boat. That head sail just being taken in, and
well, they've got the power, they're hull flying easily there.
you just see the water coming out the
Water ballast
skid.
getting rid of that. There's the bowman there just retrieving the sail that they dropped. That's why on their crew list they've got 3 bowmen in the list.
Yeah, Pete van Neuvenhausen, Curtis Blewett and Jan Dekker.
They've got a lot to do, so they needed the extra people. They're just playing angles there. As they lose the power, they then come up to gain the power again. Hull starts flying as they get the power on and the speed, they can bear away, and that's why you've got that zigzagging effect.
But if you look further up the course, you don't see any of that with Oracle.
No, again, they're much more consistent. That consistency we spoke about in the upwind leg is proving itself downwind now, and
They're down
they're
again,
quite happy.
Alinghi. This is not smooth sailing. It's a real struggle for them. 1 hour, 27 minutes for...
No, we got there 1 minute,
No, 1 minute
27
sorry.
seconds that Alinghi were ahead, going across the start
yeah,
line.
and 3:21 at the mark, so that's well, near enough 5 minutes swing in that at 20 minutes. So, well, if that continues, there could be a 12-minute gap at the finish.
The helms are having to work pretty hard, and I know that information will be fed into the helms to keep the power on, keep them going as fast as they can.
Well, just gives me a little bit of time to remind you, of course, about the Winter Olympics, which start today in Vancouver, but because of the time difference, the opening ceremony will be live for you here on British Eurosport and Eurosport HD at 2 AM in the morning if you want to get it live, and if you want to watch it later on, you can do. There's a rerun of it at 11:30 AM on British Eurosport and again in HD. And naturally, we have 24/7 comprehensive coverage of the games when they get underway. And we start with the alpine skiing and the men's downhill from Whistler Mountain. Saturday, 7:30 PM live on British Eurosport and Eurosport HD. Do not miss it, because it will be a belter.
Well, this in Valencia started off as a belter at the start, where BMW Oracle forced a penalty against Alinghi, but here we're watching the downwind leg of the first race in best of 3 series, and BMW Oracle are clear ahead with a clear speed advantage. Where we thought Alinghi may have a good downwind performance against the Trimaran, we're not seeing that at the moment. They're struggling to keep the power and the speed. That windward hull is just dropping back into the water, and you can see ahead that BMW Oracle are keeping that flying happily, keeping that breeze and power consistent.
Sailing off into the sunset, literally.
That's sad to see for the Alinghi sailors. That's nearly 1,800 metres difference between the two boats.
Oh, it's now over 2 Ks. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Look how quickly that is growing. This is turning into an absolute rout. And this is a disaster for the Swiss team, and well, even if they do manage to get the win on Sunday, that will take it through to the third and deciding race, they are going to have to come up with something truly special to have any chance of retaining their trophy.
Well, on this kind of dominance, you can pretty much put your money on BMW Oracle, I hate to say, but if Alinghi can find something, and between the wise heads in that team, they must be able to come up with something before Sunday morning and force this series into
the third
three races.
Yeah, they'll need the day off, won't they, to go over all the data, have a re-look at the race, see what went wrong,
see where they won, see where they lost time.
Well,
that
been
is
a lot of winning time, hasn't it?
Sailing. Look at that.
James Spittle has got his boat absolutely sailing to perfection.
It'd be interesting to see, actually, with Larry Ellison watching this from the chase boat, if this kind of dominance on the course will allow him that position on board on Sunday, so he can actually enjoy the racing firsthand.
Well, I'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, it's a procession, isn't it?
And they're relaxed, they're pretty happy. The bowman there just hanging out.
Having a smile. They're not even down in the aerodynamic position that they were in earlier. Just
enjoying the view that being launched that high above the water can give you.
Well, we are going to have a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will see if Alinghi's troubles get any better, but on the basis of what we've seen so far, it's unlikely to happen. We'll see you in a minute. Just to remind you that we will be back 9:30 Central European time, 8:30 GMT on Sunday, weather permitting. And that's the time we were supposed to kick off today as well, and we didn't get going till 1:30 GMT, 2:30 European time. So,
well, we can order the days, but unfortunately in this sport you can't order the weather, and these boats have proved to be pretty refined in their weather window that they can operate in. But we have found a weather window today, and we've seen some phenomenal racing, but it has to be hats off to the BMW Oracle team that have absolutely dominated right from the moment they entered the start area and put a penalty on Alinghi. And they not only sailed back the deficit they had from having to recross the start line, but they've absolutely whitewashed it now, and they're sailing happily towards the finish.
I guess the point is, they're leading by over 2 kilometres, but I mean, it could be 3, because I mean, their start was, having got the penalty and done so well in the start box, their start pretty much was atrocious, and they gave away 660 metres. I mean, if they had been bang on the money with their start as well, then Alinghi wouldn't have had a sniff in this race.
They wouldn't have had a chance to have even been involved. I mean, I think that mess of a start line gun actually allowed Alinghi a little bit of glory, because let's face it, they've still got to do a 360 before the finish line, and BMW Oracle could be well on their way back to the marina.
Well, we reckon it's it could cost them over 1,000 metres this turn.
Definitely,
so
yeah. Just
they
looking
could be
at
in
it
by
roughly,
3 or 4 Ks by the end of this.
It'd be interesting to see, but it's we're just looking at the wing there that has 9 controllable flaps, operated on twist with the Traveller, camber hydraulically, and all controlled by De Ridder, the Dutchman, trimming, with Jerry Newton as his caddy helping him out, and looking at the Traveller, getting the twist right, getting the camber right, and 8 buttons control those hydraulics. Similar buttons that you find on a garage remote, we're led to believe, but that's still high-tech with a simple push of a button. James Spittle there doing a remarkable job, helming to victory. In constant communication, heads-up display. We're closing 3,000 meters difference between these two boats. It's phenomenal the way that lead has grown. Alinghi have really struggled on this downwind leg to light up. They've struggled for power, and every time that windward hull drops in the water, they're having to steer higher again to get the power on, so they're struggling
as
to
they're
steer.
doing now.
Yeah, you can see that there, see the curve in the wake left behind. And they struggle to steer as deep and as fast as BMW Oracle, which just shows the dominance the American team have, both upwind and downwind.
So net on that upwind leg, BMW Oracle pulled back something around 5 minutes on Alinghi. So, well, it's safe to say if this was a boxing match, the referee would have stopped it by now, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it would have been clear out and out, but this lead is growing all the time, and the Swiss are finding nothing to fight back.
Well, it's going to have to take something new feel of a, well, catastrophe for BMW Oracle, or something physical on the boat to give way for this not to give them a 1-0 lead in this best-of-3 series.
Well, we still have a way to go. You can see on that graphic the finish line is some way off, but it's a long way off when you've got a lead at the size that these guys have.
Yeah, so I was going to say it's even further for Alinghi. So, I guess just making sure everything's perfect, keeping your concentration, don't want to let your guard down for 1 minute, because that is when this could come back to bite you. They're still working hard. You can see the guys working hard. That looks like Brad Webb. See, difficult to see who's who. Maybe we should ask for numbers on the back to help us identify them all when they got their woolly hats on.
I was going to say, with the temperatures they had this morning, and they were all bundled up in jackets and matching hats, it was pretty tricky. The dead giveaway, I think, is James. He does us all a favour. He doesn't change position, and he wears a backpack.
And he's got a black hat on, although that could be him there, but he hasn't got a backpack on, so that's who we're looking for. And there is the virtual eye again, from the head on. And then you can just see the difference in the line traced by both boats. The Alinghi can hold the higher line. And, well, here we go again. That lead is absolutely rocketing, and it's just that failure of Alinghi being able to load up their sail that means they have to keep just trying to find some wind from somewhere. They can't. What a fantastic shot that is. I was going to say, they just can't keep on the same course. Always having to just bring it to port a little bit to find more wind, and the speed difference. They find it and then they'll lose it again, whereas Oracle, there, you know, there's not much movement, is there, when you look at the two figures? And
we're just watching Alinghi there do a jibe. That was a very smooth manoeuvre. Park fell with the head sail just to get it in front of the mast so it can pass through cleanly. But they're still struggling not to sail. They don't manage to sail as deep or as fast as BMW Oracle. But they're going for where they think there's more pressure.
Well, they've got to try something. And is Oracle doing the same? There they are. Just matching Alinghi. Just looking over the back, and the shout comes through that they've jibed, so no panic, just follow through. Effortless.
If that's a word.
If that is a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. We've been in here quite a long time waiting for this.
Waiting a remarkable start, and now just watching poetry in motion. Watching BMW Oracle sail is so cool.
Well, we could have about 10 or 12 minutes to dissect this race as we wait for Alinghi to cross the line at the end. We'll have to wait and see. 3 kilometres now, the advantage. Well, Bertarelli was giving it the let's settle this on the water beforehand, and at the moment it is firmly coming down on the side of the Americans.
That's right, they've definitely delivered, and it's interesting listening to all the chaps that are coming through and monitoring it while we're watching this race. It really has been watched by so many people that were just really interested to see if one of these magnificent machines was going to dominate, and it really has been BMW Oracle today on the course. Both upwind and downwind, which has surprised a few people.
Yeah.
But a great job, great sailing. We're pushing now the 3 kilometre mark for difference.
Well, and that's before we do the turn, so it's... I mean, I guess they could just sail through the line anyway.
Yeah,
It makes no difference.
They'll finish the race. Well,
what, with the penalty turn?
Yeah,
otherwise they'll be disqualified.
Cleanly, yeah, they'll finish it cleanly to make sure it happens.
Oh, what a nice position for the Americans to be in, and we reckon that we're about 36. Well, there you go, you can see how quickly the Americans are going and how quickly that predicted finish time will be. So yeah, we'll be in for, if it is 34 minutes, 2 hours 25, which is pretty much what we expected. And that lead is just growing all the time.
Well, it'll be an interesting press conference that follows this race.
It will be, yeah.
With the spokesmen of both teams together, but there'll be some smiles on the BMW Oracle boys.
You'd imagine they're not, well, they've been around long enough to know that they're not going to give the full crowing just yet. It was a good performance, but still a long way to go. We could do the press conference ourselves, couldn't we?
Definitely. I know there'll be some well thought of little sentences to say that will kind of hint to some things but not give too much away, and Larry Ellison and Russell Coutts will be very proud of their boys performing on the water today.
Yeah, neither of them on board, but Russell Coutts continues, it looks like he's set to continue his phenomenal record of never having lost an America's Cup race.
Well, he's halfway there, shall we say, at the moment.
Well, he is halfway there.
I don't want you to put the mockers on this and send a curse out to these guys that are doing such a good job.
I need to break my run of mockers, so I'm going to hopefully break it here. But, well, for all the anticipation and excitement that we were feeling a couple of hours ago, it's a little bit flat at the moment, but take nothing away from the boat in your picture. It has been crewed magnificently. It has been skippered also fantastically well by James Spittle, the 31-year-old Australian, and BMW Oracle have thrown down the gauntlet to the defenders, and it may be a gauntlet that Alinghi can't pick up, because so dominant is this boat so far that they have got a lead now of 3¼ kilometers, and it just looks so stable and smooth. It's really interesting if we could get the same sort of picture from behind of the Swiss boat, because they are zigzagging their way downwind to the finish line, and as BMW Oracle serenely goes on her way towards the finish, we are going to serenely sail off to a commercial break, and we'll see you on the other side. So The lead just in the minute that we've been off air has increased by over 150 meters to 3.3, 3.4. And well, still a distance to go, but do not let that camera angle fool you, because that black hulled boat at the back is really going to town. And it's good to see Alinghi having a bit of consistency in terms of load in the sails and keeping that skid out the water. Here we go, there go the mockers, maybe, no.
They do seem to be in a much more consistent pressure patch, but they're still just not able to sail quite as deep as BMW Oracle are, which is giving BMW Oracle the advantage because they can sail a little higher and faster, covering Alinghi without any stress. So that actually worked in their favour.
Well, that's a big surprise on the Chatteram, is how well that wing is working downwind.
Yeah, everybody knew that it was going to be good upwind with the height, but it's very impressive downwind.
I guess for the same reason it was going to work so well upwind, it would work for the same downwind.
Well, with the options available to Alinghi, there was thought that they would be stronger, but with the speed they have, it really does bring the wind that the boats feel forwards, which is as good as sailing downwind, sailing with an upwind effect, which is why that wing is being pretty impressive. So Alinghi are going to be hoping at the end of this race that the second race of this course is a triangle, 13 miles each leg, so slightly shorter than the legs we've seen here, but they're hoping it won't have as big a gap between the two boats in it, I'm sure. I'm sure they're wanting to come out with something special that will force this to the third race in the best of three.
All very calm and collected aboard Oracle as we go back to the virtual eye for a look at Alinghi in there. You see that they're just starting to reduce the deficit, but certainly not at a rate that will be required if they are to get something from this race, i.e. a win.
We're just seeing peaks from BMW Oracle of 28.5 knots of boat speed, and we're just seeing 8 knots of breeze, so a pretty impressive boat speed from not a lot.
Yeah, and I guess one person we haven't spoken about for the last couple of hours is Harold Bennett, who did an amazing job as the principal race officer in getting this race out.
Well, he said you're going to need patience to run this course off Valencia at this time of year, and he was right. We were patient. He's had a tough week, but I'm sure he'll be as relieved as the crews to have seen race one actually get underway and happen. Big decisions, and it's hard when everyone's waiting for you to make it, and you're delaying and delaying. But he waited, and he picked a good time because we've had a good race. And we're just seeing here BMW Oracle's boat speeds happily sat at 27, 28 knots, and Alinghi just aren't quite reaching the same peak.
Massive fluctuations for Alinghi, and there goes that skid again into the water, and then they have to steer away and try and load it up again.
If you watch Alinghi's hull dropping there and then coming back up as the pressure comes on, in the background was just BMW Oracle just sat sailing straight with even pressure, hull flying without too much stress.
So the ramifications for the America's Cup if Alinghi were to triumph overall would be what? In terms of the racing next time round?
Well, if BMW are triumphant, then I know they're already in talks with another yacht club to be the challenger of record and get underway with the 34th America's Cup, but I think they'll be quite keen to go back to the multi-challenger series like we had with the Louis Vuitton Trophy, and the winner ultimately taking on the defender, who in this instance would be BMW Oracle. And there is rumour that that's more likely to go back to the monohulls that so many people were involved in before. But on the other hand, if Alinghi successfully defend this, then the inkling is that it would stay in a multi-hull regatta.
And with the single hull option, open it up to more people, I guess, in terms of just amount of cash required.
Yeah, financially it makes it easier. Venue-wise, it's easier to run shorter courses, and you're not so dependent on the weather as well.
Like
and
we've been seeing here.
The boats are closer together, so logistically with the race committee and the chase boats and the air support and the TV crews, it logistically gets easier. But we're proving here today that it can happen, and it took somebody with a lot of vision to go out this far on a limb and make it all happen and make people look for a way to make it happen rather than just go, oh, we can't do that, we can't do that. So you've got to say hats off to Alinghi for forcing the issue and making something quite spectacular happen today.
No, earlier you talked about the British entry and we said we'd come back to it. I was hoping to come back to it sooner rather than now, but let's talk about it now. So many good British sailors across the board. Can we make an impression at this level?
Well, I mean, we've had the team established. Team Origin got established at the end of the previous edition and pretty keen to take it all on. They've been training in a number of disciplines while this debacle has been going on in the courts, and just sitting on the sidelines waiting to be able to get involved in the action. And we've got Ben Ainsley completely committed to bringing the America's Cup back to Great Britain if he can. So we've got some high-class sailors. Sir Keith Mills has backed it and is very committed to it happening, and that really would be history in the making if we could do it, but there's no reason why they couldn't. They've got the right group of people with the right experience and kind of determination to do it, and if they get the right backing involved and financially are in a position to throw everything they can at it, why shouldn't we win it back?
No, well, it'd be magnificent, of course. And something we haven't seen since 1851.
In the year it was conceived.
Well, there you go. So.
And that race just involved a sail around the Isle of Wight, which we lost by 8 minutes, I believe, and then it went to America for 132 years. So
yep.
Thankfully the Australians stopped that domination, and it's been a bit more flexible since then.
Looks like, well, from that angle, it looks like just James on board, doesn't it? Everyone's so low. Oh no, there's another head just popping up there.
Heads, yeah, they really are lying down and relaxing and enjoying the sailing. The Swiss there have got good boat speed at the moment, matching BMW Oracle.
Well, in fact, it may even drop off as it has done.
If you look at that consistency, though, that's where they're missing. The range of boat speed they're sailing in is much larger than the range that BMW Oracle is sailing in. That picture there gives you a better indication just how far away the American team are.
All the jokes are coming out on the chat rooms now. Well, this one will go down to experience, I guess. But just effortlessly sailing towards the finish and what would be a magnificent start for the American boat.
The graphics there just showing what we saw before of it looking just like James is on his own, but the crew are there lying flat, still trimming, doing their job, and that graphic is very good at illustrating the 9 flaps on their wing.
Oh,
Of about
3.5
kilometres.
Still with a penalty turn to go. This is going to be over 5k by the end, isn't it?
Oh, that's heartbreaking to see, but harsh but fair.
Well, I guess it doesn't lie, does it? If your boat has been performing or outperforming the other one, then you will come home some considerable distance in front.
So the crew will all be scratching their heads on board Alinghi now, thinking, what can we do to make the difference?
Well, they just have to keep going and see if they can peg them back. Alinghi looking down the barrel in race 1 of this 33rd edition of the America's Cup. They certainly got the start they wanted, but prior to that they were forced into a penalty in the start box, but then got the jump on the Americans at the start line and had a lead of 660. They'll be wishing they may have taken their penalty turn right there and then, but I guess they were trying to hope they were eke out a lead of, say, 1,000 metres or so, or even more, to try and pull the penalty turn in time to come out of it in the lead. But, well, from, what, a third of the way up the windward leg, it's been
BMW Oracle
in the lead all the way, and we are now coming to a lead of 3.5 kilometres.
And we're about 2/3 of the way down the downwind leg towards the finish line. So the runaway to make any difference in that lead is running out rapidly for Alinghi. So a bigger advantage being seen downwind than it has been upwind. This wing sail on BMW Oracle, sailing deep and fast, and Alinghi just can't seem to match it.
Well, those of you that are going to tune in to our coverage of the second race on Sunday, be advised that we will be on Eurosport 2, and the reason for that is because the Winter Olympics in Vancouver start today, and because of the time difference it means the opening ceremony will actually be tomorrow. That's Saturday, 2 AM in the morning, and it'll be live on British Eurosport and Eurosport HD. But if you miss that because you're pushing out Zeds, there's a rerun of the ceremony on Saturday morning at 11:30 AM, which will be on British Eurosport and again in HD. And of course, as always, we will have a 24/7 comprehensive coverage of the games once they get underway. And for me, we're kicking off with the favourite event, the men's downhill, the alpine skiing in Whistler Mountain, and that is at Saturday evening, 7:30 PM, and it will be live right here on British Eurosport and on Eurosport HD. That rib boat is absolutely going for it, isn't it? Trying to keep up.
Trying to keep up. I think Oracle are about between 26 and 28 knots, Arno, down to 22. God, it's slow for them, positively slow.
No, they're slacking.
But
Whoa.
they're about 30 minutes away from the finish. Of what, after the first third of the race, has been a relatively simple race for these guys.
Yeah. It looked like we may have a game of chess on our hands, but no, it hasn't materialised that way. And Alinghi, unfortunately, have had no answer for the speed and power of BMW Oracle Racing. They may have the advantage at the moment in terms of speed, but that has been certainly not the case throughout the last 2 hours and 11 minutes of racing that we've had.
From that shot though, that head sail, that Jenica on Alinghi was incredible.
Oh no, they're going to be done for speeding. Look, here come the police.
They get everywhere. That's when you don't want it. Speed cameras.
Yeah.
They didn't tell them they were
terrible, terrible. But it just that shows you actually how rough the water is. But when you come back to this boat here, it is, well, it's just so smooth.
Yeah, not as telling as what's really going on. It's very deceiving.
We mentioned earlier that James Spithill was more than happy sailing this boat in 2.5 metre waves. So although this window that we've been talking about for these boats to operate in is quite small, 2.5 metre waves, it's not small.
Well, that was big training that they did in San Diego just to make sure they knew the limits of the boat, and it surprised them because they thought she would be much more uncomfortable and much more fragile, but they were confident after that, and so were happy on Wednesday with the conditions that should a race have been called, they would have gone out to do it.
Presumably, I mean, it's the difference in the time between the waves.
That's right, it's called the wave period. So the wave height is measured from the peak to the trough, but it's the wave period, the time between each crest, that really affects the boats.
Because presumably if it was within 90 foot, then that wouldn't be good because the boat would be out of the water and that would put undue pressures and strains on it. So
that's right, it's the time scale between the waves that makes a difference and make a ride very uncomfortable and boat breaking stuff, or absolutely fine and you can just ride them.
Well, Alinghi have taken a couple of 100 metres off that lead, but certainly not enough, as we're over halfway down the windward, oh sorry, the downwind leg. Oh, getting confused now.
And that shot's a very good one at seeing just how much deeper BMW Oracle can sail.
That's what happens when you've got too many men, I guess, maybe.
But that Jenica on Alinghi, one of the 3 largest in the world at 1,100 square metres, is phenomenal. It goes all the way from that bowsprit almost to the back of the mainsail. I mean, that's how close, the length of the boat almost. It is absolutely amazing. It makes the mainsail seem ridiculously small.
Yeah, it does, but unfortunately it isn't having the desired effect, because
there we see why.
Yeah, exactly. BMW Oracle with this wing sail, this bigger than an A380 Airbus, is just absolutely, well, for want of a better word, flying.
Well, the sail's actually made up from a design, carbon and Kevlar struts, and then the film that goes over each of the 9 flaps, or the separate units, is actually aeronautical film. So that's the skin that forms the wing. So that would explain the link to flying there. Very smooth.
There you go. So we are going to have another commercial break, and we'll leave you with pictures of BMW Oracle continuing to dominate race 1 of this edition of the America's Cup. Well, the lead hovering at 3-3, 3-2. And the damage already done by BMW Oracle Racing. Again, you can see Alinghi having to zigzag, trying to find the wind and the load in the sails to get that skid up off the water, and having to come quite hard to starboard to find it. And again, and you can see even the following boat is travelling a lot slower. They've got the edge on speed at the moment, but
I think they're getting that speed from sailing slightly higher, so the fact they're going downwind, sailing deep is where the advantage is, because they're able to get to the mark quicker, and that's why BMW Oracle are pulling away all the time.
That water you see coming off, that's the ballast being jettisoned.
That fine balance with their ballast, they didn't get quite right today because they've struggled with keeping consistency. Whereas again, we see in the distance, BMW Oracle looks so much smoother than Alinghi.
Look how much higher that skid is, though. Alinghi, that gives you a really good idea of quite how high those guys are.
I think I'd have quite bad vertigo if I was James Spittle.
If you could see past everything that's going on in front of your eyes.
That's right, you're busy looking at the screens.
It's just a struggle, isn't it? It's just a long struggle for the guys on the...
Well, it's funny, we're keeping an eye on the blogs and the chats that are coming in while this race is happening. And already the difference between the two boats being quite as large as it is creating a discussion of when was the last biggest margin in the America's Cup, and it was down apparently as the 27th in '88 when that infamous mismatch. Dennis Conner had a multi-hull and USA Stars and Stripes it was, and they defeated New Zealand's entry by 18 minutes.
Don't forget the 15 seconds.
15 seconds, and then again on the race 2 in 21 minutes. And that was the last time a multi-hull was used in the America's Cup, and here we are with multi-hulls on both sides this time, and a huge margin being gained by BMW Oracle, leading Alinghi by some way. You can hear those noises in the background of the hydraulics and the loads coming on the structures. Sailing boats of this kind of technology is a noisy affair. It's not that romantic sailing off into the sunset notion that a lot of people have.
Yeah, the delta or time difference between these two boats, I cast my mind back 3.5 minutes, wasn't it, at the windward mark?
3 minutes 21 windward mark difference.
And they reckon it's going to be about 10 minutes to the finish line, which is pretty much what we said we thought would happen. So it really has been...
That finish line's coming pretty quick now.
race.
10 minutes is nothing compared to the waiting that was done at the beginning. But 10 minutes to the finish line means that BMW Oracle are going to be there pretty happily, while Alinghi is still struggling on trying to get their boat speed and power sorted. Shedding ballast, keeping the hull flying, keeping the boat speed up, and trying to get depth where they can, so they can sail towards the mark. Still over 3 kilometres of separation between the two boats, and let's not forget that dreaded penalty turn that Alinghi still have to perform.
Oh yeah.
Just to rub salt in the wound.
And the Americans with over 5 knots advantage. All very quiet on Alinghi. I think they know that their race is done.
That data that they will have collected today will be gone through with a fine-tooth comb with the brains trust of the outfit, and big debrief session in all areas of the boat, the teamwork, the sailing team, so that amendments can be made, and Sunday they can come out fighting with a impressive performance that forces this best of 3 race series to the full 3 races. Day out on a lilo for him.
That gives you a good idea of the speed that these boats are travelling. Look at that water behind, how quickly it's passing. The one they're holding on for dear life.
Impressive performance from this 10-man team on board BMW Oracle. They won't rest on their laurels though. They'll be going through the same process after racing, getting all the data in, analysing it, going through a big debrief from all areas of the boat, putting it together, and also talking with those that weren't on board, so that should any changes in the crew lineup happen, the same kind of performance is put in.
Just had a comment in from star gold medalist Andrew Simpson, who's suggesting that there may be another court case looming for illegal pace. Well, I don't know, Andrew. I think you may have a point there. They seem to have gone to court for everything else. Why not speed?
I got to say, James Boyd's actually blogging live from Valencia on the Daily Sail Race blog following this America's Cup, and he's been very good at keeping us well informed, and also accepting all the comments from everybody following his blog, and it's making us chuckle the way people are coming in with their jokes and comments, and it's definitely keeping us amused as we watch this phenomenal race end in such a convincing victory for BMW Oracle by the looks of it.
You use the word phenomenal, but almost because I think everyone's so amazed that it's been so one-sided.
Yeah, and that was impressive from the beginning when they came in and asserted their authority by forcing that penalty. They were a team with a mission, but following that I was almost jaw-dropped with them just sat dead in the water at the wrong side of the start line, and so impressive with Alinghi's manoeuvrability. But once both boats were on the track, BMW have just blown them away on boat speed and height, and then downwind now in sailing deep. That's one of the race committee boats following pace with Alinghi, and this race is soon going to be over because that finish line is not far away.
And of course we still have the penalty turn to come from the Swiss boat, so there is, well, 0.00001% of them winning this race, with that to come as well.
I think BMW Oracle race team are getting the first sniffs of blood.
Definitely, definitely. And it will certainly give them a lift going into race 2 on Sunday.
Now let's not forget, when these guys jump off and the boat goes back into the dock, there's another team of a minimum of 4 that jump on board, and
to look after it.
They then babysit the boat while the race crew are recovering. One of the bowmen there just doing the crawl along the back beam to get into the middle hull because he's going forwards. As they're approaching the finish line, they're obviously going to want to get rid of this head sail.
Yeah, that was Brad Webb.
They're always a giveaway because they've normally got the harness on.
So the lead still 3.6 Ks, which it pretty much has been for most of this downwind leg, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think the time difference between BMW Oracle rounding that windward mark was 3 minutes 21 before Alinghi went round. So Alinghi crossed the start line 1 minute 25 ahead of BMW Oracle, so that was a huge gain, and they've just increased it on their way down on this downwind leg.
So where is that finish line? There it is.
Not far away.
No, not far now for the Flying Oracle.
And that gives you some indication just how far apart these boats are and how much closer to that finish line BMW Oracle are.
Well, having been so dominant for so long, the Swiss are going to have to deal with a really heavy defeat.
It'll be a tough press conference to do because people are going to want to know why, or if there was a reason, or what they think they can do before Sunday morning to make a difference.
And I guess also because Bertorelli's been so vociferous in let's get out on the water and the best team win and all this. Well, on this form, his side are coming a very distant second.
Yeah, they're going to probably be quite cagey, I would expect, and spend a lot of time together as a team with the doors closed for a little while, maybe getting ready for Sunday.
Sunday's a different day. Who knows what may happen?
And who knows what conditions we'll get either.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe a shorter leg and an extra mark will benefit them. Who knows?
Yeah, and having different points of sail will shake things up a little bit, maybe.
Bertorelli still at the helm. And that finish line is coming really quick. They're going to have to jibe again, aren't they? The angle they're sailing at. Oracle will sneak over. They should do just.
Yeah, and Alinghi are going to need to drive again.
So 2 hours 33 minutes we've been out on the water, so slightly longer than our respected principal race officer thought would take.
I think that
Well, there is the finish line.
that delay was worthwhile.
Yeah, well, it was never in any doubt, and Spittle will bring BMW Oracle over the line to win race 1 of the 33rd edition of the America's Cup. And they may have drawn first blood, but certainly they realise there's still a long way to go, and they will just pat themselves on the back and go, right, first job's done, just need one more now, and we win the trophy.
You can see there immediately James Spittle got off the helm. He's just concentrated solidly for the full duration of that race, and he just needed to switch off then. He handed over to, I think it was Murray Jones, I'm not sure, but it's...
Well, Larry Ellison, Russell Coutts on board the support boats.
Head sail away, boat stationary, just hanging out.
Amazing how quickly they stop.
Yeah, the buoys are still kind of tuned, and James Spittle actually just went across the other side. He's keeping it under control. Yeah. And I'm sure you'll possibly see Larry Ellison jump back on board to give his boys a pat on the back, I would imagine.
Well, just a few moments for the adrenaline to stop pumping, but it's been, well, a dominant performance by the American crew. They have driven home their advantage over Alinghi and have won comfortably. And Alinghi, we think, have to jibe again, but we'll wait and see. And of course they still have a penalty turn to do, so a bad day at the office for Ernesto Bertarelli and his crew.
Well, we can see that clock in the corner, and that's playing out the time difference between BMW Oracle crossing the finish line and the time till Alinghi crosses. We talked earlier about the other differences that have been by large amounts, and it'd be interesting to see what this is.
It was 3:21
at the windward mark.
Having been 3:27 or 1:21 and 3:27, something like that, off the top of my head.
Historically in '88, the match deltas were 18 minutes and 15 seconds and 21 minutes and 10 seconds. So we'll just see how this one rates in amongst our historical fact of '88 being the biggest discrepancy between the two boats.
So the blue flashing light indicates that they still have their penalty turn to do. When they've done that, that will go off.
But you can't take it away from the trimaran with the wing being hugely successful today.
Certainly it's dealt with the conditions better than the Cat.
A very happy crew, must be pleased with their performance, and pleased when not having Larry Ellison on board to deliver a good result for him. Alinghi know now that all eyes are on them, and they've still got their course to finish. Just coming up for 4-minute difference.
Well, remember they were 3.5 kilometres behind, so it's well, going to be several more minutes yet before the defenders cross the line, as Oracle make their way back. They'll be hanging around behind the finish line, no doubt, waiting to see Alinghi finish.
They might go and do some flybys of their spectator boats to give their fans a little wave.
Lonely time this now for the crew on the Alinghi boat.
Still having to concentrate on the job at hand. And it's hard not to switch off when it's kind of game over, but they're all still firmly focused on what's ahead. Giving Bertarelli the support there as he's helming. Bearing away there.
We're still waiting for this penalty turn.
Furling the head sail so he can get past the stay before the jibe. Oh, they're actually doing a head sail change. Furling that head sail at the front.
Is this the penalty
this could
turn?
mean that they're going to go all the way around, not just jibe, but
Yeah,
go all the way around.
this will be the penalty turn. It's, well, going to stick a load more minutes on the clock. Or is it? It's very difficult from that angle to see.
It's like a lot of spaghetti on the deck there for them to get sorted out.
Well, it doesn't look like they have done the turn, does it?
No,
the
I
way
think
the
they
boat's
just
now
did.
moving.
Their sail change in the manoeuvre, so they didn't lose any time. So the big Jenica, 1,100 square metres, the third largest in the world, has been furled, and we're on a smaller head sail.
Do we know where the other two are?
No, but leave that with me, I'll find out for Sunday.
There you go. So
Well,
for
there's
those
my
of
little
you
task for the
who
weekend.
want to know
Pressure's
where
on.
the biggest two Jennies are, Di Cafori will tell you all on Sunday.
Be my mission. If not, please feel free to email
Yeah,
in and
please
let
feel
us
free.
know.
Yeah, please feel free and email us if you do know where it is. As we sit and watch, and well, we've come a long way. Surprising for all the the wind speed and the speed and the speed over the water these boats have covered, that it's actually taken quite a long time. 2 hours 40 now. We'll need a day off just to rest our voices. If we're in for the same duration as yesterday. So here come Alinghi. They still need to do this penalty turn, which it doesn't look like they're going to do. So presumably that'll be a disqualification if they don't do it, or are they doing it now?
Well, they changed their head sail, which makes me think they changed it for a reason, but almost looked like that dotted line was moving away from them. And
Oh no, they're doing it here on the line.
yeah, looks like it. Or was that just to avoid the boat?
No, they're doing it on the line. They've obviously... Where are they? Can't quite see from the camera angle. No, looks like they're off again. I know they are going to try and do it, are they? Yeah.
So on their last drive, they changed their head sail so they were ready for this manoeuvre. Goes to show what kind of area they need in order to do this penalty.
Yeah, and also sort of time. So this is interesting to see.
It's a lot of work for the crew. So that will have warmed them up.
Fairly swift round to this point. Can they get it round? Yeah, they can. And Here we go then. The Delta. With the time yet to stop, it's going to be around the 10-minute mark. Haven't heard a siren yet, have you?
No, I think they're still yet to get to the line. Which, given they started this manoeuvre when they were just about on the line, shows you how much room you need to spin one of these.
10 minutes now, the light is off. The penalty turn has been done. And as that big Jenny goes away,
Are they through? Have we done?
I think so. I can't. Yeah, the Finnish Delta is 10 minutes and 5 seconds. That is the difference between the two boats in the opening race of the 33rd edition of the America's Cup. First blood to Larry Ellison and BMW Oracle Racing. And Delingi 5, well, they are down, but certainly not out. And they will go away and crunch figures, have a chat, clash heads, and see if they can come up with something that will give them a chance in the race on Sunday, which is the second race. Remember, a day off in between the races.
What a great way to start your Valentine's Day, with a little bit of America's Cup action.
Yeah, well, it could take up your whole day if it's like today. But yeah, fantastic stuff from Russell Coutts and Larry Ellison and their team. Russell Coutts halfway towards achieving the remit he was given by Ellison of winning back the America's Cup. As we go back to the virtual eye, and I guess the post-mortem starts in earnest now.
That's right, these guys have got a lot to digest after what they've just been through for the last just under 3 hours, and they're going to need to analyse it so that Sunday for BMW they come out firing on all cylinders, putting in a similar performance. And for Alinghi, they need to go and find out how they can improve and stop what happened today happening again on Sunday. They want to force this to the 3 matches of the best of 3, and BMW Oracle are hoping that this is going to be done and dusted by Sunday end of racing, so that they can be the winners 2-0. But at the moment it's 1-0 to BMW Oracle. First blood, American team, the Swiss, are now a little frustrated, disappointed, and will be even more determined to come out on Sunday with a bit more fire in their bellies.
Oh,
and an interesting change of course, triangular course.
Well, we're going to have a quick commercial break. We'll be back in about a minute to wrap up proceedings here in Valencia. So it's going to be a long 25 miles back to base for Alinghi. That's how far they are away from ports, and it'll be a time for soul searching, I guess. And we're just getting an update on the Delta. It looks like it's 15:28, because but we're not still sure yet. We're just going to wait and see if we can get final confirmation on that. But as I say, they have 25 miles to go until they get back to port. And, well, I guess it's going to be a long night for these guys, dissecting everything that's gone on and where they can improve. And you would imagine with a delta of that size, there's quite a bit of improvement available. These guys, well, they will be perfectionists. Yep, there is the confirmation. So Alinghi had the lead at 1:27 on the start. Oracle Racing had a lead of 3:21 at Mark 1, and at the end, at the finish line, it was 15 minutes 28, so not far off the 18:15 back in 1988 when Dennis Connor's Stars and Stripes did the business over New Zealand's KZ1.
15 minutes is a phenomenal amount, isn't it? If you think of how fast these boats are going, that's a huge amount, a big distance.
I mean, is it? Well, is it not embarrassing for Ernesto Bertarelli, having given it so large in the run-up to it? But I mean, obviously, I know there's always a lot of sort of mind games and stuff that goes on. But 15 minutes 28.
Well, I think the Alinghi definitely would have wanted it to be closer, and BMW Oracle are going to be loving it. The controversy in that delta is because of an alleged incomplete penalty turn from Alinghi, which is why that, although they were 10 minutes.
Okay, they've got an extra
difference.
5 minutes. Okay.
So that's really going to frustrate, add salt into the wound, really. But that's yacht racing, and somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. But
yeah, so the time difference
is a huge amount of BMW.
So even if it's
Oracle,
10 minutes and 5 seconds, which, you know, had there not been the penalty turn, that would have been the time difference.
I mean, that's still a huge margin, and BMW Oracle are going to be loving that.
Yeah.
That's going to give them a lot of confidence going into Sunday.
So here we go again. That's a rerun of the start where they picked up the penalty and then they had to turn in BMW Oracle's water, and then Alinghi got the start, went out to 600 meters, but very, very quickly BMW Oracle wound them in and, well, just streaked past them, didn't they, Dee?
They did, and I think now everybody's going to be starting to look at the wing sail, and it wouldn't surprise me if a lot more people wanted one of them, because that was an amazing difference. They absolutely sailed away from Alinghi. They caught up the difference and then never looked back, and just increased that lead all the way to the finish line.
Yeah, one stage, well, as they ran round the Windward mark, it was a lead of 3 minutes and 21 for the American boat, having had a deficit of 1 minute 27 at the start. And downwind, on the downwind leg, well, Alinghi just struggled. They couldn't get the consistency that BMW had.
That's right. BMW were deeper and faster for the majority of that downwind leg, and Alinghi was really having to fight its way to keep the boat speed. So they got a lot of way to go to catch up with this American team.
Do. They do indeed. Now remember, the second race is coming to you live on Eurosport on Sunday. Depending on the weather, we're hoping it's around 8:30. But for myself, Charlie Broom and Dee Caffari, thank you very much for bearing with us and watching this first race of the 33rd edition of America's Cup. We'll see you on Sunday. Night-night.